There goes another one. McMaster's is out. National Security Advisor McMaster's, the general, is out. So now, and in as little as 14 months, you've got two national security advisors hired by Donald John. Two of them are gone. Now, for those of you who think that this is they're draining the swamp, you got to understand. Donald John hired these folks. Flynn, McMaster's. And by the way, just for the record, kudos to CNN and to the New York Times, Washington Post, whatever. Those who were saying that Tillerson was that there was dissension with Tillerson, there was dissension with Spicer, there was dissension with McMaster's, and ultimately they would be fired. Even yours truly suggested that if McMaster's was fired, it would have been last Friday. Well, I missed it by a week. But every prediction they have made has come to pass. Not Ferrucci, what's his name? Scaramucci. Sorry about that, Ferrucci. The Rucci's, I mean, you guys from up around Jersey, New York. Folks, and it's about time that you folks who are trumpets out there just really start evaluating yourself. You really do. You just got to evaluate yourself and why it is you can't see the character that's right before you. And, of course, the attorney, the one who came out after Tillerson, after McCabe was fired, the FBI, former FBI director. After he was fired, Donald John's lead attorney comes forward and says, you need to now drop the Mueller investigation. That guy right now, the lead attorney in the Russian probe, Donald John's attorney. This is his personal attorney, ladies and gentlemen. Resigned. Folks, the turnstile is just spinning there in the White House. And it speaks to the character of the man who's in the White House. I said very early on, ladies and gentlemen, long before Donald John was elected, his character has always been in question. Nothing surprises me about what's coming out with porn stars, Playboy bunnies, the whole works. This guy's lifestyle. I read his book.
He didn't shy away from it, at least he didn't used to.
It's all about him. It doesn't matter that the company goes bankrupt. It matters more that he came out like a fat rat. That's the reality here. And it's sad for my country. Very sad. Simultaneously, while the his national advisor, McMaster's, is heading out, he comes up with tariffs. We're going to put tariffs. No list of those tariffs. We've requested them. I don't doubt that this is one of the deals he cut. He went over and met with Xi and was very complimentary about being taken to the holy city, the red city, whatever it is, the hidden city. Oh boy, a lot of pomp and circumstance and so forth. And I don't doubt that he went over and cut a deal and said, look, I'm going to come up with these tariffs only because I promised it, but that's nothing going to come of it. It's just between you and I. You see, what Donald John knows best is his audience. He entertains them. Some of you are amused by it. Others of you who are not amused by it are shocked by it, but you're still in the audience just the same. He knows it. This is what entertainers do. Shakespeare. They strut, absolutely, they strut and fret their hour on stage and see no more. Huh? So what play?
Macbeth.
All right, very good role. Look at you. Thespian that you are. We're going to get to all of it, folks, because it's Friday, but I have just an incredible story that you folks in Ocean Springs have not heard and you need to hear. Especially with all that's going on now, given the fact that the city council over there, the alderman and the mayor, want to maintain a bygone era flag that represents the worst of Mississippi. To show you how really pathetic this is, you do realize that the antithesis of the United States flag, 50 stars, 13 stripes, the antithesis of that, the actual opposite of that, is a Confederate flag that represents a divided state. One represents the United States, the other represents a divided state. Now, only in Mississippi can someone revere a divided state. However, they certainly do in Ocean Springs, and I really like Ocean Springs. Gorgeous little town, one of the prettiest cities in the country as far as I'm concerned. I think it's a tie between Ocean Springs and Bay St. Louis as far as on the coast here, coastal cities. It's just charming. Used to be quiet, unassuming, laid back. Not anymore. Now it seems to be the headquarters for those who wouldn't revere yahoos and fanatics. Sadly. But there is a story coming out of Moss Point for those of you who are into the history and heritage, especially those of you who are African American there, that has yet until now been told. And it's about this man right here. Here. See that? Can you see that on my Facebook page? See him? Very dashing mustache. That's the guy. That guy is Warren Stuart. Now, in Ginsburg's book, 100 Years of Lynching, he's listed as Warren Matthews. So I was thumbing through the book, and here's the book. And by the way, this book followed Ida B. Wells' Red Record, which was a book of lynchings, actually, and what was transpiring. You're going to see this in reverse there, but it's a 100 Years of Lynching. Ginsburg book, I had it since the 1970s, actually, and it's a must-read because it lists newspaper clippings and so forth of reported lynching. And it's not all the lynchings, by the way. And it's very significant because when you go to the Mississippi History Museum in Jackson, there is an area there that actually have the list of lynchings, not all, but lynchings. Now, did you call there, Whitlock, to find out whether or not they had Mr. Stuart or Matthews listed?
I couldn't reach anyone this morning.
All right, okay, so the answer as of yet is no, but I want you to find out because it should be. Even more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, even more importantly, we have the esteemed honor and privilege of actually talking to his great, I think it's two greats, niece. Miss Sylvia Wong Lewis is on the phone with us right now. Good morning, Miss Lewis.
Oh, good morning. How is everyone there?
I'm honored to chat with you. We're doing just hunkadory here, as good as we can here in Mississippi.
I'm so happy to hear that. You know, I had an opportunity to visit Mississippi about 2 years ago.
Did you? Huh.
I sure did.
What part of Mississippi?
The first time I went to Ocean Springs, Mississippi. That's my ancestral homeland.
Yes, in Ocean Springs. So you still have relatives in Ocean Springs?
Apparently I do. I've lost touch with many of them because they are the offspring or the descendants of my great-grandfather and my uncles who once lived there.
Incredible. You have it in...
Yeah, so I don't know them.
You don't know them, but you did visit.
No. Right, no, I couldn't find any... You know what? I have a passion for genealogy.
Yes, yeah.
And what happened was that I have a young cousin who tracked me down from Oak Springs.
Yes.
And then she told me who she was and said, oh, you know, we're cousins. So thank goodness for genealogy and Ancestry.com and all of those DNA companies that help you find your relatives. So
this is the cousin Monique and Donnie?
Yeah, Monique and Dion.
And Dion. And what's their last names there in Ocean Springs?
Well, Dion's last name, I can't remember her because she's married now, so I have to get that to you later.
You know, the reason why I'm asking is because there used to be a wonderful restaurant, Jocelyn's over there, and as I looked at your uncle there, it put to mind Miss Jocelyn and her restaurant, which is now closed, but Does that name come to mind as far as being in your family at all, Miss Jocelyn, at all? No?
Jocelyn, I'm not sure that we have a Jocelyn, but we do have, we have Stuart. That's
Stuart.
The
Yeah.
name is Ford. Okay. That's Dion Ford is her name. Do you remember any of the Fords down there?
Ford? F-O-R-D?
Yes, Ford.
You know,
The other name is
Go ahead.
Stuart.
It's
That's
Stuart.
my family name.
Right.
Well, yeah, so my Uncle Warren, Warren Matthews, they changed his name, but his name is actually Warren Stewart, but they also noted him as Warren Matthews.
Well, let's get into this. Let's get into this story. Tell us what you know about what happened to your uncle that infamous time in 1901, whereby he was lynched in Ocean Springs.
Well, I have shared this story, as you may know. I have shared this story in a blog. I've also included it in a film that I created. And I was actually already interviewed on a BBC radio, and for which the program won an Academy Award.
Really?
I wanted to point that out to you. There's a radio program called Strange Fruit.
Yes.
And it's on the BBC radio. And they interviewed me about the details of my uncle. He's my grand-uncle, Lynching. He's my grandfather's brother. Now, think about that.
Right.
You know who your grandfather is, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you know who your grandfather's brother is. So that's not that long ago.
You're right, exactly. So it was not a great-great. It was your grandfather's brother. Whoa.
Yes. And so what happened was that he was accused by a white woman in Ocean Springs of attempting to assault her.
Is that Ethel or Rosalind Fontaine or Fountain?
Yes, Fontaine, and different names. As I was saying, that when the story gets reported, it gets reported with different names and different ages.
Right.
As you saw from my article that I wrote about,
right.
My uncle's lynching, they had him listed as 31, and they also had him some articles that he was 81.
Huh. And also they had suggested that Miss Fontaine was either 13 or 26, and that you said they changed the name from Rosalind to Ethel in some cases and spelled the last name sometimes Fountain and sometimes Fenton.
Exactly, yes.
So she accused your uncle, your uncle of what?
Of attempting to assault her.
Okay.
So it wasn't even a rape or, what it normally is when they lynch black men. They usually are lynching black men because they try to say something or rape a white woman. But this wasn't even one of those kind of sexual, kind of crimes in their mind. It was like she attempted to assault her.
Mm-hmm. So what happened?
And
was he arrested?
So then the story goes, as you saw, that there are various news articles written about what happened, and he was accused, and he had run away, and he was tracked down, and then he was brought back to Ocean Springs and put into jail there. And then the town mob dragged him out of the jail, dragged him through the streets, and then dragged him for, I think, a whole mile or so, where he's begging for his life. And the whole town is doing this, including the judge, the minister, the sheriff, the police, and the townspeople. So I had found out the details of my uncle's murder and eventually torture and lynching. I found out the details of that through newspaper articles late in life. I actually found out maybe about 10 years ago. we had known all the time that we had an ancestor who was lynched, and it was a great shame and pain and horror in our family. And no one spoke about it. We always treated it like it was an open secret. We all knew about it, but we never talked about it. And so when my young cousins that you mentioned, Dion and Monique, contacted me and they had the newspaper articles, I was in shock and I was traumatized to read the details of what actually happened. And the way I heard about it was that, when I was a young child, my father told me that he said his father's brother was lynched, so he didn't really give me any details, so I didn't ask him any details. But then years later, fast forward, years later, my parents are gone and buried, and then my young cousins, who are genealogists and researchers, they send me the articles, and they ask me, had you seen these articles, and did the family know about the lynching? And I said, yes, we knew about the lynching because of Emmett Till. And I don't know how old you are, young man, that I'm talking to now, but the story of Emmett Till is a famous story in the black community because all black boys were warned. I mean,
well, I'm very familiar with the story there in Money, Mississippi, and yes, I remember it very well.
But then you know, so
yes,
even up in Brooklyn, in Harlem, where I grew up, we all knew about Emmett Till. So I remember asking my father, did anything like that ever happen in our family? And he said, yes, it happened to your uncle, Uncle Warren. And then that's all he said. And I was just a child when he told me that, so I didn't venture to ask him any details. So I put it in the back of my mind, in the recesses of my memory. And then these two young baby cousins of mine called me and sent me the articles that give the gory details. And I have to tell you, I was so outraged and traumatized that I did extensive research. And as you know, I'm a journalist and I'm a writer, and I investigated everybody in that town. And those people still live there.
Really?
And yes, those people, the ancestors of people who lynched my uncle still live in Ocean Springs.
Wow.
And I was so torn, I wanted to come after them. And I wanted to sue them and accuse them. But then I realized, what good will that do?
Yeah.
You know, because if I come after you and I say, you know what your grandfather did to my great uncle, I mean, how are you to know, and how are you responsible? And I mean, I was just like so upset and so traumatized.
So you actually have the names of some of the prominent families that was then, because your family was prominent. I mean, your family was in the dairy business.
That's right. My family was one of the most prominent families in Ocean Springs.
Where did they live?
The only dairy farm, and they had cattle. That they were the truck farmers, and they had. My grandfather was known as an old horse doctor, but people considered him a veterinarian because people brought their sick farm animals to him, and he was able to cure them with his own remedies and roots and things.
Now, your grandfather was Caucasian. Was that your great?
Well, my grandfather was. His name was Alfred Stuart.
Alfred Stuart.
We are descendants of Colonel Stuart.
Colonel Stuart, yeah, and the Colonel.
Colonel Stuart. So that's what I'm saying, that they changed Uncle Warren's name to Matthew because they didn't want it to be known that they had one of their
So Colonel Stuart obviously had a concubine who was of African American descent, and so therefore he was a steward.
Right. That's my great grandmother. And he had several children to him. One of them was Uncle Warren. But as you could see with the date, Uncle Warren was lynched after Colonel Stuart had already died.
You know, ladies,
he had a lot of protection when he was alive.
Yes, that had a lot of protection. Yeah, because Colonel Stuart obviously protected.
Because he was a powerful man in Ocean Springs. My great white grandfather.
Yeah, that's Colonel Stuart.
His name was Colonel Stewart.
So you got to.
People knew Colonel Stewart and they respected him, and they wouldn't have done that if they knew he was alive. But they secretly, I think some of the town people secretly resented that this black family had such success and wealth and education and all of that, because, as you know, my family was able to be educated when Colonel Stewart was alive, and they went to the historically black schools that the missionaries had down there.
Yes, in Ocean Springs.
People.
Yeah.
My grandmother graduated from State College, which was set up down there in Louisiana.
So now, your grandmother, is that Madam Tempe Stewart Smith?
Yes, that's Madam Tempe.
And she witnessed the actual lynching of your uncle, did she not?
I believe she did, because she was 12 years old, according to the genealogy record.
So could you describe...
I don't...
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting. I'm so anxious to hear all this.
Recently, like just maybe 3 months ago, Madam Tempe and all of her children, including my father, was just honored in it. They were honored in the town of Ocean Springs with a blues marker.
Really?
Yes.
Did they mention your uncle?
No. We kind of... In fact, when the researcher was asking me about my grandmother and her background, her husband's background, I said to them, maybe this is a way to get healing, because, as you know, my family left the city and moved to Harlem.
Right.
And because of I think because of the lynching. I mean, they didn't move right away. I mean, my grandmother moved after she was married and had her own children, but I think it stayed in her mind what she witnessed, and I know that things weren't all that great when they left New York. Left
Mississippi, yeah. And your grandmother became quite an accomplished business person in the music industry. Your entire family, very musical family. That might be why they had the blues marker. But I want to go back to where actually do you know exactly where the property was there in Ocean Springs? Do you have any idea?
Yes, I do. I don't have it right in front of me, but I have the exact address and everything.
Do you?
I have. Yes, in fact, I came to visit to see where the land was and where the street was, and it was so amazing for me because the address, the number in the house was the same number that was the number in the house that we actually grew up in New York City.
Really?
Isn't that amazing?
And it's amazing. The same number on the house as you had. That is just...
Yeah. Well, the number in the house today, I think that's the number in the house down here. They didn't have a number. I think
I see.
They had post office box, and it was like Pershing something. I have to look up the road that they lived on. But
so can you recollect you had said it was a horrible torture and so forth. I'd like for my audience, and especially the folks there in Ocean Springs, to really get an idea of how the townsfolk in Ocean Springs back in 1901, because this is their heritage, what they actually did. They drugged your uncle for a mile or so, and then what?
Well, I said that I had known what happened to my uncle, and it said the article headline said Negro Fiend, Fiend,
Uh-huh.
lynched by Mississippi mob, at Ocean Springs.
Orderly
Hear
lynching.
that word? Orderly lynching. And then it says, Negro brute was dragged about a mile back to town and hanged. Everything was done in an orderly, humane manner before execution. That was from an Alabama newspaper in 1901. And then some newspapers, like the New Orleans Daily, they urged the public to join into the orgy of the vigilante vengeance. They said, come to New Orleans, come to Ocean Springs. Ocean Springs citizens take swift vengeance. Warren Stuart Matthews, a Negro who attempted to assault Miss Ethel Fontaine, strung up, his body riddled with bullets. Negro taken from court offices by a mob of 150 determined men. Warren begged piteously for his life. That was written in the New Orleans Sunday Daily on February 3rd, 1901. And then there was another article that the headline is, the body of Negro Warren Stuart Matthews is taken by his relatives. The Negro who was lynched last night was found this morning hanging from a broken limb of a persimmon tree beside the country road. The verdict was that the death was due to strangulation and gunshot wounds. The body was taken in charge by the man's relatives.
It's incredible.
And one of the man's relatives was actually my grandfather, Alfred Burton Stuart, who we knew as Papa. That's my grandfather. So, okay, so these things happened over 100 years ago, all right, 1901. And my family never discussed them. And I think that we need to heal from this. And I think that the whole country needs to heal from this. And what I'm learning is that the white people who did this and witnessed this, they were impacted too. I mean, when you watch your own family, your own father, relatives murder someone else, that cannot be good for your psyche. I think that you need to be healed from seeing that, from witnessing such a horrible thing yourself. And so that's what I learned when I was experiencing healing from this group that I joined called Coming to the Table. And they help people heal from the racism that happened as a result of racism that was caused by the slavery and the lynchings that happened in our own country.
So how would you respond then, Ms. Lewis, for those who are saying that they're proud of their heritage, this heritage?
Well, see, I think that the white people today are proud of their heritage in one way, but in another way, they're not proud of it. So, and I think that they need some healing too. So I wanted there's a town in Georgia and other southern towns where they lynched black brothers.
Oh yeah, all along the coast.
And children, yeah, there were.
Yeah, we've got a list. You're the first of several lists that we're hunting out. But let me ask you.
I think that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that the white people want to come to terms with that too. I think they need to be healed from that. I think that they know what happened, and they still remember. And let me tell you, when I entered Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and I told them that I was Colonel Stewart's great-granddaughter, they said, well, you know what happened to your uncle. I mean, this was a white man that said this to me, a total stranger. So that town knows what They know what they did to my uncle. And this man worked at the art gallery there. He actually printed out a whole history of my family that lived there. I mean, they were so friendly, you know, and I was afraid to come to Mississippi because I'm born in Harlem and grew up in Brooklyn.
Right.
I'm a real northern girl.
Yeah. Yeah, I think was that the Walter Anderson Museum you were talking about, where you...
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I went there and I met a young man. He's a young man, a young white man, could have been more than 30 years old. He said, "Oh, you're part of Stuart's family." He said, "I met some of your relatives come through here looking for your grandfather's gravesite," and he told me where to find it. And he was the friendliest people, and the people at that gallery, that art museum, they were the nicest, friendliest people, and they were actually the first people I ever met in Mississippi.
So how do you? I'm sure you've heard about the flag battle here in Mississippi, the infamous flag battle, and now Ocean Springs is right in the center of that. How do you? I've got to take a break, but when I come back, I've got to ask you, how do you feel about the Confederate rebel banner being paraded, and of course it on the state flag, and then the alderman, city council there voting to put it up when it wasn't flown at the city hall, and of course the mayor led the way in that, and how now it's become so contentious by alt-right individuals actually threatening some of the members there, be it of the NAACP and or the Take Down the Flag Coalition. So when we come back, I've got to ask you about that and just see what your views are, given the fact that you are literally your ancestors were property owners there in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and one even lost its life at the hands of the good folk of Ocean Springs back in 1901. Hang on here, folks. When we come back, Miss Sylvia Wong Lewis. We'll continue. We'll be back.
It's about that time to get away. Make your reservations, pack your bags, and head on down to